I threw my wife out of the house at 2 a.m., not because she cheated, but because she used my paralyzed daughter to do it. The neighbors probably thought it was just another late-night argument, a military man losing his temper, a marriage falling apart. They had no idea what I had just seen. I've faced enemy fire. I've carried wounded soldiers through smoke and blood, but nothing prepared me for the sound I heard coming from my daughter's room that night. A man's voice, laughing, and my wife whispering for him to be quiet. That was the moment I understood something I will never be able to forget. The betrayal wasn't just against me, it was against the one person who cannot even stand up to defend herself. And that's when I knew someone was leaving that house. And it wasn't going to be my daughter. Before she came into our lives, it was just the two of us. Me and my daughter, Emily. 3 years ago, I buried my wife. Cancer doesn't care if you're a soldier. It doesn't care how strong you think you are. It just takes and takes until there's nothing left. 6 months after the funeral, the accident happened. A drunk driver, a red light, 1 second of impact. Emily survived, but she never walked again. The doctors called it a miracle. I called it a different kind of battlefield, one with hospital walls instead of sand and smoke. I left active duty soon after. I told everyone it was my decision. The truth? Our house became quiet, too quiet. No laughter, no music, just the hum of medical equipment. I met her at the rehabilitation center. She wasn't a nurse. She wasn't a doctor. She was a volunteer, the kind who stayed after hours. The kind who spoke to the patients like they were still whole, not broken. The first time she talked to Emily, she didn't look at the wheelchair. She looked at her. And for the first time since the accident, I saw my daughter smile without forcing it. She started coming by the house to help with exercises. Then she stayed for dinner. She filled the silence in our home with warmth, with laughter, with hope. A year later, I married her. I thought I was giving my daughter someone who would love her like her own. I didn't realize Claire was studying us long before she became part of us. Claire created a social media page for Emily and began posting videos of her recovery. She filmed my daughter during therapy sessions and asked her to smile for the camera. Every week, new donations appeared in our account under the name Emily's Journey. Claire insisted on managing the money herself and said it was less stress for me. At night, I started noticing her phone light up with messages she wouldn't open in front of me. She began stepping outside to answer calls. Sometimes she told me therapy would take longer and closed Emily's bedroom door behind her. And more than once, I saw my daughter staring at that closed door without saying a word. One afternoon, I came home earlier than usual and noticed Claire's car wasn't in the driveway. The house felt too quiet, but a thin line of light was visible under Emily's bedroom door. As soon as I stepped inside, the door opened, and Claire walked out quickly, adjusting her hair. She smiled and said they had just finished an intense therapy session and Emily was exhausted. I looked past her and saw my daughter staring at the ceiling, unusually pale. Later that night, I found Emily's therapy folder lying open on the kitchen table. The dates inside didn't match the official schedule listed on the clinic's website. The next morning, called the rehabilitation center, told Emily hadn't attended a single session in over 2 weeks. That same night, after Claire finally fell asleep, I sat alone in the living room with the laptop open. I logged into the account connected to Emily's Journey and watched the numbers load on the screen. Hundreds of small donations had come in over the past month, each one sent by someone who believed in my daughter. Messages of hope and prayers filled the inbox. But when I opened the detailed transaction history, my hands slowly tightened into fists. Large transfers had been made every week to an unfamiliar bank account. Some were labeled as medical equipment, but no equipment had arrived at our house. Others had no explanation at all. By the end of the page, the missing amount was more than 3 months of my salary. I wrote down the account number and searched it the next morning, and the name attached to it wasn't Claire's. It belonged to a man I recognized. The name on that bank account was Daniel Harper. I hadn't said it out loud in over a year. Daniel served in my unit overseas and once saved my life during a patrol. He stood beside me at my wife's funeral and promised he would always look out for my family. The next evening, I told Claire I had paperwork to finish on base and wouldn't be home until late. Instead, I parked my truck down the street with the engine off and the lights dark. I sat there in silence. An hour later, headlights slowly turned into my driveway. Daniel stepped out of his car and walked toward my front door without hesitation. Claire opened the door before he even reached for the handle, like she had been waiting for him. I stepped out of the truck and walked toward the house slowly, keeping to the shadows so no one inside would notice me. The front door was closed, but the living room curtains were slightly parted, leaving a narrow view inside. Through the glass, I saw Claire standing in the hallway, laughing in a way I hadn't heard in months. Daniel stood close to her, his hand resting low on her waist like he had every right to touch her. Then Claire turned her head toward Emily's bedroom and said something softly. Daniel nodded and began walking down the hallway toward my daughter's room. I watched as he reached the door, stepped inside without hesitation, and slowly closed it behind him. I moved closer to the house until I was standing directly beneath Emily's bedroom window, close enough to see the movement behind the curtains. The light inside was dim, but the shadows on the fabric were clear enough to make out 2 separate figures. One silhouette stood near the bed. The other leaned forward slowly, blocking part of the light from the lamp beside my daughter's wheelchair. Claire's outline was unmistakable, the way she tilted her head, the way she reached out with her hand. Daniel stepped closer to her, invading the small space beside my daughter's bed as if he belonged there. I understood something that hit harder than any gunshot. This had been happening for weeks, maybe months, inside the one room that was supposed to be the safest place in our home. I walked to the front door and opened it without making a sound. The house felt different now, like I was stepping into a place I no longer recognized. I moved down the hallway slowly, every step steady, controlled. Emily's bedroom door was slightly open. The light inside spilled across the floor into the corridor. The first person I saw was my daughter. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shouting. She was looking straight at me. Her eyes were wide, like she had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Behind her, Claire and Daniel froze where they stood, but I didn't look at them. I couldn't, because my daughter's eyes were asking me one silent question. Are you finally going to see it? I finally shifted my eyes away from Emily and looked at them. Daniel stepped back first, raising his hands slightly like he expected a fight. Claire opened her mouth to explain, but no words came out. The room still smelled like perfume and something that didn't belong near my daughter's bed. I walked past them and positioned myself between Emily and the rest of the room. My voice was calm when I spoke. Get out. Daniel tried to say it wasn't what it looked like. I took one step toward him. I told him he had 10 seconds to leave my house before I called the police. He walked out without looking at me again. Then I turned to Claire, and this time my voice wasn't calm anymore. Claire tried to step toward me, her face shifting from shock to something almost pleading. She started saying it wasn't what I thought, that Daniel had only come to help. I didn't raise my voice. I told her I had already called the rehabilitation center. I told her I had already seen the bank transfers. Her expression changed when I said Daniel's name. She realized I knew about the account and his name. I told her she had used my daughter's wheelchair as a marketing tool. And then I said the one thing that made her finally go silent. You didn't just cheat on me, you stole from my child. She had no defense for that. Claire tried to speak again, but I walked past her and reached for my phone on the dresser. I opened the security app I had installed the day after I called the rehabilitation center. A small camera had been placed in the hallway, hidden inside a smoke detector. I turned the screen toward her. The footage showed Daniel's car pulling into the driveway. It showed her opening the front door before he knocked. It showed him walking down the hallway toward Emily's room. And it showed that door closing behind him. Claire's face lost all color as she watched herself on the screen. I told her the bank records, the clinic confirmation, and this video were already saved in 3 different places. Then I said the only thing that mattered. You can leave now, or you can leave in handcuffs. She grabbed her bag and walked out without another word. I locked the door behind her. And for the first time in months, my house was silent for the right reasons.